Hello, everybody. Welcome back to God.VERSATION. And we got a banger for y'all.
Yes, sure.
Because it's been a minute. As usual, I got the returning apostle.
What's happening?
That's Audible Gould. Yeah. And I've got Pastor Kendall Snyder.
Blessings, everyone.
Now, y'all can look both of these gentlemen up on Facebook. Their tag's going to be up there anyway by now. But we've been on a hiatus for a while, and but we got a banger for y'all. So recently, men of God, they not just recently, as it is right now, people are in a crisis about their link cards. Yeah. It is like, I'm talking about, and it's November. Thanksgiving is around the corner. Yes. So they've cut the link off, So now concerning that, I happen to have an opinion about it as far as that it's a system that was not good for us, but this is based in fact. So basically, I'll just read a little bit of it here, and then we'll get into this. But it's a little bit of it. So I was doing some research. I did this through Chat CPG just to make sure, because that's the AI. So it's in the mid 20th century, in the 1950s through the 60s. They had welfare policies tied to aid to families with dependent children. So again, that's called AFDC, aid to families with dependent children. That's kind of the whole basis of what public aid and everything is. That started it all. So now, through that, it was created by the Social Security Act of 1935. And basically what I'm getting at is that this basically disproportionately affected Black families in a bad way, because behind this act and giving the women link and stuff like that, they basically told them that the Black man could not be in the home. Now I'm gonna bring a little more facts later if it comes to that, but that's basically what it is. So now I haven't received link in coming up on 4 years. So I was never really with the link program. So I think that it's a good thing that they're cutting it off, honestly. And there it is. What you say about that?
Yeah, I think it's a good thing as well, that they're now putting specifically our people who have not been in a position to be self-sustaining and self-maintaining as it relates to being able to have their own stream of income or working a job or seeking, some sort of trade or some sort of education to be able to take care of themselves. Now this will push them, or it should push them, into thinking more proactively. And let us put ourselves in a position where we can take care of ourselves and buy our own food, and not have to depend on anybody else to give us handouts. So I think it's something that should have been dealt with years ago. But at this point now, it's almost like you got to do it now. You got to figure out another way. So yeah. And again, me personally, I'm just I'm split as it pertains to forward. The cutting off of the EBT system, and just like let it still go on, because I know that there's families that really depend on it and really has not put themselves in a position to take care of their own affairs or their own means of life or a sustainment of their lives. So it's going to create some chaos, man, and it's doing it now.
Yeah, and then you got people that as of recently they saying that it might come back. So like, I'm not against it, men of God, as far as that just don't do it at all. I just believe that it's a program that in its inception, it was designed to split up and break up the Black family. And then because of that, there's many social economic issues within our own race. Now, of course, we know that the link system, it more than Black families receive it. You got the immigrants are receiving it as well. But beyond that, it's like it didn't help in so much as now that behind telling them that the father couldn't be in the home. That's what they said to them, that the father couldn't be in the house. You can't get this if the father is in the house. And then that was called the man of the house rule. That was a part of this whole package. So then they decided, okay, look, they ruled against that after such complaints. And then they just repackaged it in TANF now. So then now the cash assistance kind of has the same thing there. Like, the woman may not get cash assistance if there's a father or in the home. It's like designed like that. So this may be a family that still does essentially need the help, but won't be able to get the help at all because this man, the father, is there. He may be making minimum wage. He may not be able to take on the whole burden, so to speak. And it caused the black women who received it to then have to get jobs and stuff on their own. In some cases, they had to raise the children. I'm not blaming the government for all of that, but just behind all of these issues that are within us, this is one of the many of them that I believe, it being gone, or at least it should be, if it's gonna remain, they should have better insight as to who deserves it. The families that really deserve it, because our people be cashing in. Like I've seen people with getting the $1,000, they cashing in $6 and spending $4 at the crib. You know what I'm saying? And they going and rolling big blunts, big drinks off a link. Yes. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Yeah. I know. Well, first of all, I'm on the same side as you when God as it pertains to. I'm with them removing it, not so that people will suffer or anything, but for the simple fact that to remind people of the fact that it is for aid. It is not to something that you can live on for the rest of your life. And that's where it came to with a lot of people, to where people were in positions where, or are in position where they can acquire money. They have resources now. They have the necessities covered, but they're still using the link. They're still relying on it to feed and it to sustain them as it pertains to having food, when it's simply there to aid you until you're able to go forth and provide what is necessary, or until you're able to go and acquire the provisions yourself. Honestly, I truly believe that it's one way that they keep people's mind in a place where it continues on with whatever system is implemented. It keeps their mind occupied. They don't have to worry about what they're going to eat. As the Bible teaches us, worry about not what to eat, what to drink, nor what to wear. And it's crazy that I speak that. It literally, to me, it takes the place of what God can do. It tries to anyway. Mm-hmm. And I believe ultimately us not having that now, it brings people to the place now, okay, just because we don't have that don't mean that you don't have provision. You can't have provision now. God has shown you who the true source is.
Here's the other thing. The other thing is, as it pertains to the advantage of being able to be sustaining financially. In African American families, typically does not make enough money to live at the means of living that's necessary for us to survive. So, even if you're working a job and you're able to get, most people do it, a lot of people do it, they're able to get these extra fundings from the state, in the, sort of means of, public aid and EBT. That just gives them extra funding to maintain their lives, because of course, if they don't have the education, and our people deal with very poor educational systems because there's not a lot of interest in taking care of the public school system and making it efficient for our children to have the right level of education to be successful, and then be able to go to higher learning and be able to get degrees to be able to get good jobs. So, it offsets that. And then, people are like, hey, listen, even though I'm working a regular job and maybe making minimum wage or slightly over, this system helps me, get over the hump. It helps me, be able to buy some food or pay my rent, and then be able to have a little bit, extra. So at the end of the day, it's actually created this this mindset of, I need this, we need this extra income.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so, but unfortunately, when it comes down to finances or capital, as it relates to our people, we've been trying to catch up ever since, we landed in the North, post slavery. We've been struggling to try to catch up, you know what I mean? And so, if you give a person the ability to not have to work or do anything, and you just hand them what you want, you can also create their sociological status too. Which
is also one of the bigger issues within the poor communities in an African American community is financial literacy itself. in so much as that, you know, our community doesn't appear to know how to actually spend and conserve money. And this basically makes that like a crutch.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
instead of me having to learn how to be more better with my money, then now I can just always constantly make a plan, you know, to count on this, you know, and it's not really helping at all. Meanwhile, the jobs that are available, you got people rushing in and receiving these jobs and they're working them. Because I was at a job that, you know, I was getting paid a couple dollars more than everybody else, but I still felt that the minimum wage that they was making was better than having no dollar at all.
Yeah.
Like at no point have I been okay with accepting links. So like I'm one that even when I was on it, I felt like, hey, this is just a means to an end. This ain't meant to be something for me to be doing forever. And Lord knows I'm far from being rich or even well off at this point. I'm still making decisions but those are financial literacy decisions that are gonna help me to become financially stable.
Yeah.
Because I've had conversations with other people who have never received Link or any other form of assistance from any government. And they're paying upwards of $500 a month in cash for food.
Yes.
But then, and that's just the food. And when you go to talking about phone bill, light bill, gas bill, then that's a whole nother monster, man. So it's about getting ourselves into a place that where we can operate like that.
Yeah.
As much as it seems like, you know, more money, more problems, but it's also more responsible living. So I've never felt good with someone just giving me a hand if I don't need it. You know, because then now when I do need it, you're looking at me like, hold on, man, I done gave you much, you know, because I came for it when I didn't need it.
Yes, yeah. It's a standard. It's a standard of living that we all feel the pressure to maintain. You know, and you mentioned the fact about, you know, a person, you know, paying $500, you know, for food. I mean, every time we go to the grocery store, me and my wife, we always, you know, like, man, you know, we're looking at these carts with the people it has to be EBT. We're looking at, they got a train of carts, you know what I'm saying? And we got this cart, you know what I mean? And we're looking at it and we're like, I know this is gonna be at least about $200-300, you know, cash, you know what I'm saying? And I always, most of the time I make that statement and I'm joking, I gotta get me an EBT card, baby, you know what I mean? I need to eat like them. But at the same time, of course, you gotta budget, because paying cash for your food is expensive. But at the same time, if you allow yourself to be part of the system, then they control you. I remember as a young lad, my ambition was because, again, the social dynamic that was created for our people. As soon as I turned 18, I'm like, I'm going right down to the aid office. That was like what I was going to do. And I was going to go get on public aid. I was going to get $100 and some bucks a month. And I was going to get like $60 worth of stamps. And I'm going to blend in with the rest of my family. And this is how life is. Why? My only example was, you know, this is what my mom had to do to take care of us. And this is what everybody else was doing. And so that's what I aspired to do. But at the same time, it was recycling this lackluster mindset of being able to take care of myself and have my own job, or even understanding, you know, how to make my money make money, or even, you know, all of those things that I should have been looking at, but I opted out for the default mindset of our people. They're giving us enough to be quiet, docile, and to control us, you know, as a society.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And yes, I completely agree, because as I was stating before, even people that after a while do get themselves in a better place financially, their money habits, as the men of God spoke of, aren't good, or they don't like to steward the money when they get it. They're spending it relying on this system, and they're spending the money with other people of other places that's going to keep them in a financial bond. And so with that, it's really, to me, the SNAP benefits, and you made a very valid point, man of God, that pretty much groceries cost. It costs. You can easily wind up, like, you can easily look up and spend about $500 just on what you need, not even just snacks or nothing like that. So I definitely understand it, but you want to get yourself in a place where you're not completely relying on it, because truthfully, this system creates the life that we live in. It creates the problem and the answer, so you will never see it because you're relying on too much on what their answer is, but we're steady going for their problems.
Yeah.
The problems is they want to keep folks in a financial play in a certain level financially. It's like it's a food chain, if you will. It's a bottom line. They want to keep people at a certain place. So certain folks that have it, folks that are in the upper half of it, they can stay in there. It's required to keep people at a certain place. And we do want to come out of it, but just relying on what the upper half is going to give us, that's not going to.
And you got to change your mindset. You got to change your mindset. Our people are not looking for, the pie in the sky, because they kind of realize that pie in the sky ain't there.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So we know that, there's not going to be reparations. There's not going to be 4 acres and the mules. None of that stuff is going to actually happen. And so, they don't really look at it in that aspect. So it's just almost like we just settle. We settle and we say this is it, and then we allow it to be what it is. Sometimes things has to be shaken. The foundation has to be shaken for people to, kind of, open their eyes and look at things differently. And I think this situation has done it. Again, and when you think about it, again, I talked about before, is that when you look at the gross metropolitan product of the United States versus our city, Chicago, and actually the EBT, the amount of money that it takes away from the American financial bottom line, it differs. I mean, we have $24.91 trillion worth of products and goods and services that is resignates finances to America. Trillion.
Trillion.
Yeah. Trillion. Now, EBT system, it ciphers will take away at least 100 million. So that tells us this. There's enough money for them to be able to maintain it. Well, actually 100.3 billion, actually. And that means that it takes away only like 10%. There's enough money to maintain it, but do we need to keep maintaining it? You know what I'm saying?
Put that funds in other places.
You put that, and see, and that's the thing. That's why now, even with the worry about what Trump is doing with tariffs, everybody's fussing about it, but then nobody has actually realized that a lot of the money that the American system, it finances, is spending on frivolous, unnecessary entities and charitable entities. We need to shut that down. We really don't need to spend money on, foreign, things that they want to do, and it has nothing to do with the American people. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, it's wasted money. It's wasted money. And then, of course, in order for them to take it serious, you have to do something like threaten the system, and unfortunately it comes down to, the Democrats and the Republicans. It's not even about what's right. It's about greed in every, shape, form, and fashion. Because that's what the Bible says. It's the love of money. Yes. It's all evil. And some folk just hold on to it. But that's what we're dealing with.
And it's not like we so I kind of had this a little bit of a conversation like this earlier as far as money was concerned. I was expressing to an individual that, the Lord has it set up to where you could get all that you need without actually having finances. The Lord works on our needs. The things that you want is what can take the back burner. You need air, to breathe. So you can't. That's not a want. That's a need. You can't survive without it. And the linked system and these sort of hand-to-mouth programs is what making people get confused with what they want, and people have begun to take the things that they actually need, like food, and taking that for granted, and then replacing it with the things that they want. And a lot of the times, the money that comes within the impoverished community as a whole is just governmental money. Every other type of money, it seems to be scams and all these other things going on. And like you said, man of God, that was a valid point, because I was recently around some younger women, and they were speaking about it. Two of them had the low income housing and the link, and then the one didn't. But her grand plan, the one that didn't, was to be like the ones that did have it. Like she didn't. None of these young women had any aspirations to get anything further than that. Their grand plan was, I am going to get on Link and I am going to go and get me a low income house where my rent is $30 a month, and I'm gonna sit like that for the next 60 years. And then and it was just like the lack of a dream, the lack of ambition. And I'll go so far as to say that there are other races that are just making our youth look ashamed.
Sure.
Like they really are, man. They coming out of school, going straight into college. You know, they building a future. I've seen young men and women of color that do have this. Luckily, there are programs and stuff that's in place that if they want it, they can reach for that. Like you don't have to decide to remain in poverty. Your grand goal shouldn't be to, hold on, let me get mad because they're gonna cut off this free thing over here. Don't focus on what you lose and that's free, because so much can be given to you that you can be sustainable and self-sustainable forever. You know,
so it's like life kind of pushes people to go in that direction. You just spoke of other races of their children being very successful, going on and getting involved in much things, creating, establishing, and doing. And don't get me wrong, our people, our youth, we're going forth and establishing and graduating colleges and starting businesses and doing things elsewhere. But we both, not both, we've all experienced, like in the workforce, where certain people get certain opportunities than others.
Yeah.
Certain people are denied certain opportunities than others. Get treated unfairly versus how others may get treated, have different standards versus everyone else. People face this day in and day out. And when something like a SNAP is presented, opportunity, or when something is presented to where it can cover and take care of you, and you don't necessarily have to worry about the pressures, it's easy for people to fall into that place and stay in that place and don't want to come out. But the truth is, and this is just my understanding how God has wired me now, but we have a God that provides all our needs.
Oh.
And when I mean provides all our needs, the laws of this land is truly based on God's laws. It's based on God's, it should be based on God's principles. And God showed us with the children of Israel that if we follow his commandments, he will provide our needs, just as when the children of Israel came into the wilderness of sin. And he provided them bread, he provided them meat, and he provided for them. They were murmuring, they were talking, they were doubting, they were hungry. God heard them and fed them. And it's the same in today's time. But the laws that's established now put folks, certain people of a certain, like, or it puts minorities in a place where where it's like almost no way of not violating, or way of not going outside of those laws and ways.
Which is the reason why one must really pay attention to what's going on these days, because if you're not in these systems, they're drying up. People are going to find themselves without homes and with nowhere to go. Now, with us as a church, with the church period, I can see that the church structures, however, are prepared for this. That most churches' pantries are running 24, they're running around, like not 24 hours a day, but they're running like around the clock, pretty much, whereas they're not closing. The pantries are open for you to receive that. So then that is service to where that's for the people who need it, but they're not gonna, be hand and mouth. Like okay, look, you don't have to do nothing. Within the church, you can get other resources, counseling, and all of these things right here, because that's what's gonna be needed. At the wake of this, they are gonna bail out the link. And from what I'm understanding, some people are, if you got 1,000, you're not gonna be getting 1,000. Those people are gonna be getting it, but you're gonna be getting like a half of what they were getting. But make no mistakes that this system is coming down. And with it, many other entitlements. The other entitlements like cash assistance. I got a few younger children that can still be eaten from hand to mouth, like my grandkids. But then you got older kids, who could get in the program. There's so much other stuff that's for them. They got their whole lives ahead of them. Were they to reach out in that direction for it, and never have to worry about what you're gonna do next about the next food or the next meal. That's why I said that this system is also a tragedy, because it is forced people to be in this state of unpreparedness. Like, people never thought that this thing was gonna end. That's the worst thing about it. And some of the biggest culprits that are complaining about it know that you cashed in. If we talk about the numbers, you can cashed in a couple $100,000 of the government's dollars. You know what I'm saying? So, but now you mad that it's gonna be going. What is your next plan? What is your next move? Because it's a certainty that this thing is gonna go.
That's it. And you again, $100 billion that America is spending on the SNAP system. $100 billion is a lot of money, even though it's not a lot of money as it relates or compares to $24 billion. But again, just like the man of God was talking about the children of Israel, one of the things that was very relevant about the children of Israel and their experience is that because they had been in bondage so long, their mind was shaped in bondage. Mm-hmm. They continued to think in that reference. They didn't even want to come out, even when they were free. And they saw everything that God did to prove his sovereignty, through those 41 signs and wonders and great miracles that he did. They still requested that the man of God take them back to bondage. You know what I mean? Because that's just all they knew. They had got comfortable. Same thing with our people. Our people is used to that bondage. We're used to not having efficient education. We're used to not having trades. We're used to not having good jobs. We're used to not, having the ability to start our own business. And we're used to not having financial literacy where we could learn how to, nurture our money and make it grow. Mentally, we can't transform because our mind is so deprived of our identity and our purpose and what it is that we have access to. You know what I'm saying? So that's really what it boils down to, is that sometimes there has to be a desperation for you to force yourself to advance or to grow or to elevate.
Yes.
It has to be a desperate. Sometimes we call it tough love, right?
Yeah.
Saying like, hey, you know what? I've been handing you out, what things that you need. I've been rescuing you all this time now, realizing that you're looking for the handout and you ain't trying to get it yourself. Tough love. I got to pull it back.
I want to say this real quick, and that's a very powerful point that you just made, man of God. Mm-hmm. Many people won't see it as God doing this, as God taking away these SNAP, or not God allowing these SNAP benefits to come to an end. It got to the point with the children of Israel where they were being fed, they were good and all, but then they were going to Moses. They started to equate to them that it's Moses that we need to go to get it, and not that God is establishing himself with you all through Moses.
Proving himself to be their provider.
And that's what SNAP is, the Moses to some people.
Yeah, it's their God.
And that's the issue. That will be the issue again once it's taken away now. And of course, it's the beginning. They said that they're going to give it back, and they're going to give half of it. They're not going to go there, but it's just the beginning of the sorrows, if you will. So it's probably not having a big impact. Yeah. But it will have an impact because now what you rely on isn't provided,
and you're forced. You're forced to be good stewards of your seed.
And that's a good thing because it's the tough love.
You got to do it.
This is what government tough love looks like.
Come on, there you go. You got to do it because now you can't just wait and depend on the governmental system to sustain you. Because let's be honest, some people have used this system, in the wrong way. They used it from a mindset of greed. They manipulate the system. Some people have the ability to work a good job, and they refuse to work because they're getting subsidized housing. They're getting Section 8. They're getting all of these government, this government funding given to them, and they're not even trying. They've settled that I'm just going to live off the government, and I'm not going to try to do anything to be self-sustaining. I'm not going to try to put my kids in a better headspace to now thrive, to become entrepreneurs or business owners or anything like that. the parents become the living example of what that child will aspire to be.
Mm-hmm.
If the child is looking at mom chilling back and chilling out every month, you know what I'm saying, they paying $2,000 and $3,000 for housing.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? They got houses that they're living in. They're living better than the people who are working.